guys remember back, I'm not sure what episode that is, but it came out in November. So November 2018 is when it came out, and it was with my son Kyle, and he started a podcast. And if you've seen the podcast, it's called Junior Hockey Talk. Hopefully you've seen it. Subscribe, check it out. You're doing an awesome job. So here's how it worked. At the time that I last talked to Kyle about the podcast, he hadn't started it yet. He was just getting started. He was just thinking about it. He kind of had some things in the play, but he didn't know what to do. And so what he decided to do is he decided to uh, just start creating content. So he was creating content, but he wasn't putting it anywhere. He hadn't started the podcast, but he was kind of recording on his own. I'd given him a mic and some recording stuff for his birthday, and so he was using that, and he was kind of just trying to figure out what he was going to talk about. And then one day we got the call. So what happened is I had a client here in Burlington, Ontario, who had me over the years do some illustration work for him. He called me up and he said, Bruce, I understand that you have a couple podcasts. Tip one, put people on your newsletter list. You never know when they're going to come back to talk to you about something you do. So Tim was on my newsletter list. And so he'd been on the newsletter list for years. And I mean, I hadn't done anything with him for probably a good 5 years. I think the last time he hired me was for a caricature event. He hired me one time to paint the Montreal Canadiens logo on his basement floor. That was when I was first starting. I met him by drawing. I would go out to the parking lots of the car shows and I would sit there and draw the cars. And he saw me and I drew his car, and I think I charged $10 for this paper drawing that I did on the spot, sitting in the middle of the car park. Almost got run over, I don't know how many times. Anyway, that was my first meeting with Tim. Then I did his basement floor. Then he hired me to do, I think it was his wife's birthday party, and I did a caricature event for him. And then I didn't kind of hear anything more from him over the years. I think it had probably been about 3 or 4, at least maybe even 5 years since I had done anything with him. But all of my customers go on to my newsletter list. And so he was on the newsletter list and probably getting my monthly updates about what's going on and just kind of staying top of mind. Whole idea of a newsletter list. So here's what happened. He calls me up one day and he says, Bruce, I understand that you have a podcast. He says, I would like to advertise. He says, I just bought a hockey team. I said, Tim, that's awesome, man. I said, but here's the problem. I don't talk about hockey. I have a podcast for creative entrepreneurs, this one, Cashing In on Creativity Podcast, and I have one for the trucking industry called the Lead Pedal Podcast. And neither of those talk about hockey. In fact, I don't watch hockey. I used to play hockey. I love hockey. I watch it when I'm available, but I don't watch it like every Saturday night like any of these guys. I don't do any of that kind of stuff because I'm too busy. I'm usually drawing at a wedding or doing something different. So I said, I don't even have hockey. But I said, I do have the perfect person for you. I said, my son Kyle has been thinking about starting a hockey podcast. And what Kyle was doing before, he was podcasting for another show called The Convo. The Convo was a podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs, the NHL side. And Kyle was kind of doing a next draft kind of guy. He was kind of profiling some of the upcoming players. But there was nobody, and we had talked about this. Kyle and I had talked. I said, man, you know what? Forget the NHL. There's a million guys covering the NHL. Cover junior hockey. There's nobody covering junior hockey. And I said, these kids, man, you can get a kid on, you can profile him, and man, he's gonna just love to see his name in lights. You can watch him come up through the ranks, and you're gonna have customers that stay with you for a long time because you're part of it. So he liked that idea, but didn't do much of it. But he was starting to record on his own. So I phoned him up and I said, Kyle, I said, I've got a customer who is interested in doing something with a podcast. My friend Tim had just bought the Hamilton Kilty Bees about 2 years ago, and he's looking to get them more exposure. Now, they're a junior B level team. I don't know if you know the hockey levels, but it's basically junior B, junior A, and then those guys go up to the farm teams for the NHL and then on to the NHL. So that's kind of the career path. You're talking 16-year-olds to 25-year-olds, depending on what it is. So I said to Kyle, I said, man, you got to get into this. And I said, this would be perfect for you. So we went and met with Tim, found out what his goal, there's no money involved in this, folks. And do not start a podcast for money. If you're starting it just to make money, you may as well go and work at McDonald's because you're not going to make that kind of money on a podcast right out the gate. I did mine for 3 years before I made a dime on it. Yes, I'm slow and I actually paid a lot for it. My son did it for a month and a half and was starting to make money off it. So it's all different, but it depends on your topic, depends on what you're doing. Depends, all that kind of stuff. So I said to Kyle, I said, man, let's go meet with this guy. So we went and met with this guy, and I wanted to let Kyle kind of do it, right? I kind of stayed away and said, I'm not going to be the dad, but I wanted to make sure that he wasn't getting taken advantage of and that he was serious. I want him that exposure of a business meeting, which you don't always see, right? So I said, okay, let's go and do this. We met with Tim. Tim says, well, you know what? I either want to advertise on a podcast or I want to start my own podcast. And he didn't want to do the whole thing himself. So he says, Kyle, why don't you start a podcast and we'll be kind of your home team? And so I said, Kyle, okay, do not do it all Kilty Bees. And the reason you didn't want to do that is that by doing it all Kilty Bees, if anything goes wrong in the future, they don't want to do this anymore, or both parties get tired, whatever it is, then, you're not stuck with a name like the Kilty Bees podcast and no Kilty Bees, right? So I said, Kyle, why don't you make it something generic that if the Kilty Bees kind of move on or you want to move on, you're not stuck with a Kilty Bees name specific there, that you've got something you can build on. So we went with Junior Hockey Talk. So I became a sponsor for him, and I'm in the, when you're a sponsor, it means I designed everything for him, and I, helped him with the website, kind of got him rolling, and went and helped him at a few games, just as far as photography and video. He handled everything. He got into a groove, and man, he's got the players. They love to hear their names. They love to hear the stats, and he's just doing some amazing things with it. So he has just taken off with this thing. And so he's got the Kilty Bees. I've been helping him out. And then he's got sponsors knocking at his door. A month out, folks. A month out. The guy's only had like 12 episodes at the time, not even. He was doing once a week. And what he's doing is he goes every Monday night. He covers the games live. So if you go to the Facebook page for Junior Hockey Talk, you can see him doing live updates after every period. And then on Wednesday, he releases the podcast version, which kind of covers the game again, highlights, stats, upcoming games, all that kind of stuff, player profiles. He's doing it. Folks, he started with nothing. And he's already got 2 sponsors that are working with him starting in 2019. And man, it's not big money, okay? You're not quitting a job, but it's enough money to show you that you can make money at this stuff. And now it's how he builds it. But he's having a blast. He found something that is his thing. He's always been passionate about sports. He loves hockey. He was following the Kilty Bees before they were even Kilty Bees. And so he just loves this. So when he got this, it was just a perfect fit. And my friends, that is the secret to being a creative entrepreneur. Finding something that fits your passion and going with it. And so we're going to talk to Kyle about how he's doing, because we caught up with him. At the time we did this recording he was in it about a month, right? So he'd had a couple sponsors kind of knocking at the door. He didn't even know. I had to create an invoice for him. He didn't even know how to create an invoice. So, folks, this is why. Just get started. How many times have I said that in this podcast? Just get started. If you are looking to be inspired about something, if you're looking to move on, then you need to just get started. So let's talk to Kyle about how he's doing. And, man, if you want to start a podcast, let them make it time.